Hello, I am Alex, and I will be doing my project about the novel of Mice and Men. So it starts out with two guys named George and Lenny, walking to a farm so they could get some money. Life for George is really hard. He has to take care of Lenny, who is massive and super strong, and has a mental disability. While they are walking to the farm, Lenny has a face of guilt, like he's not supposed to be doing something. But George already knows what Lenny is doing because Lenny was, holding a dead mouse in his pocket. George got mad and threw the dead mouse across the river. Lenny claims that he just wanted to touch something soft and it was already dead when he found it. But again, George already knew Lenny was lying. So George reminds Lenny of the times that Lenny's aunt used to give him mice, and then she stopped giving mice because every time he would pet them, they would die. They continue walking through the woods. George reminds Lenny that he has to stay quiet while George is talking to the farmer's boss, and that if Lenny gets in any type of trouble, he runs back to the exact spot they are right now. They get there the next day and meet the boss. Lenny remembers to not say a word, so they can get hired. The boss showed George and Lenny their room. Once there, they meet the roommates Slim, Crooks, Candy, and Carlson. They're just chilling until Curly shows up. Curly is the boss's son. Everybody hates him, even his wife. So he goes up to Lenny and already starts screwing with him and calling him names. Then Curly leaves the room. The other guys explain that he's so short that he even gets mad at people that are bigger than him. The next day, everyone comes back from working, and Carlson tells Kenny to put his dog down because he's making the whole cabin smell really bad, and the dog was really old anyways. Eventually, they had this whole conversation for a very long time. They finally reach a conclusion to put the dog down, but Carlson um, has to do it for Candy, and that Slim will give Candy one of his puppies that he just had. Candy was really sad. A couple minutes later, Lenny asked George about their plans they made a couple years ago before coming to the farm. Lenny just wanted to know, since he likes hearing the story, that they're gonna buy a nice place for with a few acres, and live off the fat of the land, and have some animals. But Lenny gets to tame the rabbits because they're soft, and he would get excited every time he heard that part about the story when George told him that. Kenny hears the story and wants to buy the farm with them because he has enough money to do so, and he wants a new place to raise his puppy. Slim walks back in the room, and Lenny asks him if he can also have a puppy. Slim says yes. Lenny runs to the barn where all the puppies are and picks out a puppy and starts petting it. Day after day, he would come to the barn just to see his puppy, and George warned him not to take it out so much and away from its mother, but he didn't listen. However, one day, Lenny walks to the barn and finds the puppy dead and starts talking to it and asking why it had to die. He also got scared about the fact that George would get mad. A few minutes later, he covers up the puppy inside the hay because he hears someone coming. Curly's wife shows up and asks Lenny what's wrong. Lenny suddenly gets to the point where he tells her that he killed the puppy because he likes petting soft things. Eventually, Curly's wife let him touch her hair to show him how soft it was, but he started grabbing it harder and harder, to the point where she started to panic and was screaming because Lenny was not letting her go. He also started to panic and get scared because people would hear her screaming and find out that he killed the puppy. So he covers her mouth, causing her to struggle even more. In consequence, he accidentally broke her neck and ended up killing her too. Lenny remembers what George said about hiding in the place they once went in the woods if he was in any type of trouble. The rest of the guys will later all found out about what happened to Curly's wife. Curly was so mad that he told everyone to follow him to find Lenny and kill him. Curly knew George wouldn't kill Lenny, but George had to go to prove to Curly that George wasn't guilty of this murder. They all head to the room to get their guns, and they find out that Carlson's pistol is missing, so he goes empty-handed. Everyone knows Lenny is armed, so they go more carefully into the woods. George separates from the group because he obviously knows where Lenny is. George finally finds Lenny at the place, and Lenny tells him that he's done something really bad, although George wasn't mad. George told Lenny to look to the other side of the river. Then George started telling him the story of how they were going to buy the land and that Lenny would tame the rabbits. While George is telling that story to Lenny, George pulls out Carlson's pistol and shoots Lenny in the back of the head. Lenny is dead. The whole group heard the gunshot and went to look. They saw George, who was awfully depressed, so Slim tried to cheer him up. Meanwhile, Curly asked all of them if they wanted to get a drink. Character archetypes. Alright, Lenny. He is known as the wise fool. He deals with mental inferiority, although he can discover the best as well as the worst of each person he is knowing. Curly. He is a representation of the complex of inferiority, meaning that he feels like he's not valuable. George. The usual person. He is a type of person that can be found in all places. His actions and feelings are not necessarily outstanding nor awful. Most of the readers can be identified with George since he represents the person that deals with the difficulties he experiments each day. Overall themes. Nature of dreams. Some characters have their own dreams. George and Lenny wanted to be the owners of their own farm. George wanted to be someone if he fulfills his wish of owning the farm. For Lenny, his dream is like a security for him, considering his future responsibility of taking care and taming and petting his rabbits. Kenny considers a farm as his ideal place when it comes to his age. Barriers. They keep their loneliness, so they maintain these barriers by not being sympathetic with one another. Curly wanted to stay away from his wife because of his jealousy. Because of his jealousy. Curly's wife is isolated because she is the only female character in the story. And Candy feels isolated because of his age and his handicap. Loneliness. Many of the characters deal with loneliness. Slim mentions in the story that the farmers deal with having no company with is having nothing good for them. The idea of George and Lenny of possessing a farm would imply to end the vicious circle of living with loneliness. Candy had to fight against his loneliness when he got involved in Lenny and George's dream. I must note that the farmers live in a town called Soledad, and Soledad is loneliness in Spanish. And this is a plot arc. I'll let you look at that for a couple seconds. My opinion about this book is that it is very well written, and a lot of things that are written in the book lead to the end, and that is why I recommend it, because it's such a well written book. Thank you for watching the presentation.